morning or good afternoon, depending on where in the world you're signing in from today. I saw that there's a bit of an international audience, so always appreciate you guys taking time to be with us. I'm joined today by Breanne Beh, President and CEO of Angus Gold. Breanne, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Now, here's how today's going to work. Breanne's going to lead us off with a presentation today, followed by a couple of questions from me. Then we're going to jump into questions from the live audience. So this absolutely is an interactive event today. Please do feel free to shoot Breanne a question at any time during today's event using the chat button at the bottom right of your screen. I'll talk in it as soon as the event has begun. If for whatever reason I don't get to your question today, I'm going to try to, but if for whatever reason I don't, I'll make sure that the Angus team gets those questions afterwards, and they'll get back to you as soon as possible. Today's event is also being recorded, and it will be available for replay probably just in a couple hours this afternoon. It'll pop right into your inbox. It'll also be available on events.6 as well as our YouTube channel. But that's enough out of me. Let's get to the protein of today's event. I'll throw it to Breanne to run through a presentation.
All right. Thanks a lot, Romeo. So I will run through a little bit of a background on Angus here for anyone who's new to the company, and then we'll kind of get into the new results that we've been putting out this year. Okay, so to start off, in terms of company highlights, Angus has I think a really experienced leadership team behind them. We have past executives from Richmond Mines, Barrick Gold on the board, as well as some current upper management and directors of Probe Gold. In terms, I think, of a company philosophy for exploration, we really bring the Probe Gold philosophy, I think, to the table here. And that's kind of how I fit into the story as well, having worked for them for over a decade. So, I think that team, we've had a lot of success with our exploration techniques. Having discovered the Borden mine, which is operational in the Chapleau area of Ontario, and then currently the Novador project, which Probe has pushed above 10 million ounces in the Quebec region, or the Val d'Or region, of Quebec. In terms of the Angus land package, though, we are situated in the Wawa district. So here we've stitched together almost 300 square kilometers of land. It's the first time that this project has all been consolidated under one operator. And, I think the Wawa district has seen quite a resurgence in exploration in the past decade with the success of West Dome and Alamos's mine. But, for us, I think our land package has actually gone underexplored because of the fact that it was kind of fragmented with other prospectors and small exploration companies. So it's great for us, and we kind of have access to the infrastructure of the West Dome operation. We're literally sandwiched between the mill and the Eagle River mine itself. Deposits in the Wawa district do have potential to be high-grade multi-million ounce deposits. Our project itself at this point has two more advanced exploration targets. So we've got our gold zone in our banded iron formation, which was an Angus discovery that we made in 2021. We've got our Dorset zone, which had a historic resource to begin with, but we really felt it was something we could, reinterpret and build on. And then, as I said, we've got the remainder of this large land package, and we keep running, grassroots exploration programs each year and stumbling over, new exploration targets that I would really be excited to explore if they were standalones, but this is all wrapped into one land package. And then, heading into 2025, we are well funded with about 6.5 million in the bank to complete all our exploration programs for the year. And that is thanks in large part to the strategic investment from West Dome that was completed in January of last year. So just a quick snapshot of the board here. We've got Steve Burleton up in the top left. He was with Richmond, and then after that, GT Gold. Jamie Sikoski, our strategic advisor, spent 20 years with Barrick, ending as their CEO. David, Patrick, and Dennis down the center, all with the Probe Gold team. And David Cobbold brings a wealth of financial experience, being the vice chair of the metals and mining group at Macquarie currently. And then Lindsay Dunlop, our VP of IR, brings over 15 years of experience in the industry, having worked for West Dome actually for over a decade just before us, and then before that Kirkland Lake Gold. In terms of the Probe recipe, I think what the team is really good at is putting together a large land package that is, underexplored, but in a mining friendly jurisdiction. And then at that point, it's really nose to the grindstone. And every dollar we can goes into the ground to kind of assess the value and exploration potential of the package we've put together. And at this point, I feel Angus is really well positioned to be a third story for this team. So I touched on our cash position heading into 2025. We've got that 6.5 million, just shy of 60 million shares outstanding. Directors and insiders hold about 30%. West Dome holds 11% of us. New Gold 8%. Institutional investors 36%, and the retail investors at 15%. So it's a tightly held stock. All right, so now into the geology a little bit. I like showing this kind of district or geology map of the entire Wawa district because it really shows our neighborhood and who the other I guess, large majors are that are operating in the district. You know, a lot of people associate us with West Dome so closely, but we've got Alamos, we've got Barrick, we've got the Borden mine that was the Probes project down the highway as well. And there's not a lot of, good quality, more advanced exploration projects in this area. So I think, we're really well positioned in our neighborhood right now. And you can see our land package, we're literally sandwiched here between Mishi and the Eagle River mines of West Dome. And we actually start to come up to the north, heading along the trend that goes over into Eagle River as well. Or goes over into Island Gold as well, So in terms of the simplified geology on our land package, we cover a number of gold-bearing deformation zones, and I'll just go through them from north to south for you to kind of give you a feel of what we've got on the project. So to start off, we've got Abbey Lake exploration area in the north, very grassroots, very early days here, but some really interesting grab samples coming out of the field the last 2 years. Mishi West, we've got the convergence of the two deformation zones there. Again, great looking grab samples and some really new areas out there that we're stumbling across that haven't really even seen prospecting work done in the past. Then you move over into Feather River, where we've got about 7 kilometers of the Mishimishu deformation zone on our land package. So this deformation zone hosts the Mishi and the past producing Magnacon mines. What I really like to point out here are all the small gold circles that show the historic gold showings. And I think it's really interesting that they all seem to end right at the edge of the West Dome claim block right here. So to me, this just hammers home how exploration in this district historically has just been done near mine. And it gives us a lot of opportunity to find new zones out on our land package. Then you move down into the Rook Lake deformation zone. Again, very underexplored, but gold showings present. Mishi Creek deformation zone hosts our Dorset deposit. And the metrics of that historic resource are shown up here in the top left. So you're looking at about 200,000 ounces at the 1.2 to 1.4 gram per ton point. Then you move down into the Biff exploration area and the Eagle River Splay exploration area. So I'm showing these deformation zones that host these exploration areas in blue, because they're deformation zones that Angus has kind of uncovered through our field work and our compilation work. So, it's value we've already added in terms of improving the geologic understanding of this land package. And then you move south of our project where you've got the Eagle River mine, which I like to remind people is currently one of Canada's highest grade producing gold mines. So it's small, but it's mighty. And there's some nice gold out in this kind of forgotten corner of Ontario. So this map shows you basically what we've accomplished at Dorset. So that historic resource area is shown here in the red projected to surface. That's the outline of it. When we acquired the project in 2020, that was 750 meters of strike length. We came in, we did some property scale geophysical surveys, geochemical surveys. We reinterpreted what we thought was going on in terms of structural offset, came up with some hypotheses, and we drill tested them. And we have now more than doubled the strike length of this Dorset zone. We are now able to say that, yeah, we've hit this zone over 2 kilometers, and the mineralization is very continuous. You're actually able to walk along it in outcrop as well, so it's exposed at surface. And yeah, we've also made, I guess in 2024, one of our most exciting events or news flow items was hole 136, this brand new high grade gold discovery out on the western side. So at that time last winter, it was the most western section that we were drilling on the Dorset Zone, and we intersected this 7 grams over 12.5 meters, and that included 21.7 grams over 3.3 meters. So a bit of a game changer for us in terms of grade. We've come back during our fall drill program and tried to kind of test continuity and see if we could hit it again. And we've been successful in now hitting it over 100 meters of strike length. So that was our press release earlier this week, where we're getting, more consistent high grade intersections in this zone. And we're really excited about this. It's now open as well for 2 kilometers to the west, where there's been no drilling done. Dorset has kind of become a little bit of our shining star on the project. Here you've got a bit of a zoom out showing you what's going on in terms of drilling to the west. Really no drilling done along this trend westward. And then in the 2D section down in the bottom right corner here, what we're trying to show here is why we're calling this a brand new discovery. The remainder of the Dorset Zone is hosted in metavolcanic rocks, and it dips roughly 60 degrees to the north. As we've moved out over the contact to the metasedimentary rocks within the deformation zone, we seem to be seeing a more vertical zone. We're seeing kind of more regular repeating quartz veins, and we're seeing visible gold on a more frequent basis. So for us, just really exciting. And we're back in there drilling right now, consistently moving westwards. Okay, so changing gears to the banded iron formation hosted gold zone. As I mentioned, this is an Angus discovery. So in 2021, we came in here, we drilled 4 holes into the entirety of the 6 kilometers of strike length that we have by about 2 to 3 kilometers in the north-south direction. 2 of those 4 holes happen to be drilled along the northernmost mag trend, where we've got our zone now. They were 500 meters apart, and both of them intersected broad zones of consistent low-grade mineralization. So hole 14, I think, intersected 0.9 over 60 meters, and hole 15 intersected about 1 gram over 20 meters. I should say in that 60 meters of low-grade mineralization, we had a nice cluster of about 4 to 5 samples that ran, I think, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 9 grams per ton. So we were like, okay, wow, what if, we can kind of come back in here, test between these 2 initial holes that, as I mentioned, were 500 meters apart, show that there's continuity, and then maybe consistently try and target this high grade that seems to be present within this envelope of low grade mineralization. And that's what we've done. At this point, we've defined just over 1 kilometer of strike length. We are able to show that in almost every hole where we intersect the broad low-grade mineralization, we usually have a cluster of higher-grade material. And so for goals in this area in 2025, what we're looking to do is come back in, better define the higher-grade pockets. I don't think that we've really cracked 15,000 meters still on this zone that we've defined over the kilometer. So it's still early days. And then we will continue to test, parallel trends that we feel have high potential to host other gold horizons. So, we've begun to do that in some cases. There's a trend down here that I'm trying to highlight with my cursor right now, where the intersection there was about 1 gram over 4 meters. So, to me, it just illustrates that there is gold elsewhere in the system, and I feel like it's just a matter of time before we hit another horizon that's similar to the one we've already defined. And so a long section here of the BIF, just trying to show, that we are really starting to build some continuity along this 1 kilometer of strike length. We've only really drilled consistently to about 250 meters true depth. We do have a one-off down here in hole 156 at about 270 meters true depth, where we're still intersecting, 1 gram per ton gold material. So I think it just speaks to the potential at depth. Everything is very much open, and then along strike as well. So still very excited to continue to push this zone forward. I just usually like to wrap this up by reminding people why BIF-hosted gold deposits are so exciting to explore. Typically, they can be multi-million ounce deposits, high grade and extensive systems. And we just feel that, with the work we're doing, we hope to one day make our way onto this table of notable BIF-hosted gold deposits. Okay, so last area I'll speak to you about today is the Eagle River Splay exploration area. So this area was very much, conceptual to begin with. We knew that the, Eagle River mine was hosted in this diorite stock down to the south here, shown in pink. And then they were having, West Zone, was having exploration success out to the west, where they're drill testing the lithological contacts between felsic and mafic volcanic rocks. And this is all hosted within the deformation zone. So through some of our compilation and desktop work, we realized that there's this chunk of what looks to be the backside of the Eagle River stock ripped off and entrained up onto our project. We've got another chunk of it up here shown in pink. And then we also have these interfingered felsic and mafic volcanic rocks as well. So, really similar geology. And then there was about a handful of grab samples that had been collected at surface that had run over 5 grams per ton gold. So, a really interesting exploration area, and it had never been drilled. So we came in here, we did our ground geophysics. Our first program was logistically simplest to just drill all along the edge of the mine access road. So that's what we did. These 5 to 6 holes here, we tested each of the kind of IP axes, which are shown with the blue, red, and yellow squares and the lines here. And we came back with hole 100, which ran 48.7 over 1.5 meters. We were like, okay, interesting. Winter comes around, we push further back in the bush, we drill a fence to try and transect the entirety of the deformation zone. And we come back with hole 135 that had 3 intersections of gold. And so again, this area is very early days for us, but to me, it's just playing out so similar to how we made the discovery at the Banded Iron Formation. 2 initial holes intersect gold. These ones are 700 meters apart. And we're excited to come back in here this winter and try and test between them and see if we can build some continuity here as well. If we can, we would have 3 gold zones that we're pushing forward and growing within about 5 kilometers of the Eagle River mine, along the road that goes up to their mill complex. So again, just fantastic location. So to wrap up for you today, the BIF is where we made a brand new Angus discovery. We've defined a kilometer of strike length of that zone. We're constantly working on new interpretations of the structural controls of gold mineralization at depth. Dorset, that's where we had the existing resource. We've more than doubled the strike length of that resource. We were targeting high-grade material. We've had success with that with our brand new gold discovery in the Dorset West Zone. And that trend is now completely open for 2 kilometers to the west. Eagle River Splay, we identified an underexplored portion of a shear zone with very, very similar geology to the host rocks of the Eagle River mine. We're generating new exploration targets here, and we made a brand new gold discovery in our inaugural drill program there. And then Feather River, I always like to touch on. I think it's just an interesting exploration area. Again, identified an underexplored portion of a gold-bearing shear zone up there, and kind of constantly pushing it towards drill readiness as well. So a quick snapshot for you of the project path over the last couple years. And you can just see how, our drill programs have evolved. We're constantly upping the meters from 11,000, 15,000 last year. This year we aim between 15 and 20,000. And yeah, our new goal is basically to be working towards a resource, or our first resource, in 2026. All right, so thanks a lot. That kind of wraps up the story for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Breanne. And I know there's a lot of good questions in the chat, and we'll get to those in just a couple seconds. I just have a couple. I wanted to grill Breanne myself, if you don't mind. There's also some praise in the chat from Ivan, which I'll show real quick. He says it's an excellent introduction, a good explanation of the project. So with that, praise out of the way, I'll jump into the questions that I had. One thing, Breanne, is you've now extended, from what I gather, the Dorset trend from 750 meters to 2 kilometers since 2020. And I'm curious if you could walk us through just the significance of this extension and what, from your eyes, that means for the project's potential.
Yeah, so I think, like going back to the initial strike length, 750 meters, that was about 200,000 ounces. We've now more than doubled it. So, I think there's, a great potential here to begin to put together, a resource update that's, substantial for us, reminding everyone that we haven't done one yet. And to sort of couple Dorset with Biff, overall, we've defined 3 kilometers of strike length of gold horizons on this project. So I think, it's significant having started from, that just the 750 meters. So.
Oh, cool. One thing is the new high-grade results at Dorset West show that 13.7 meters of 3.2 grams per ton and 9.1 meters of 4.3 grams per ton. I'm curious what's your geological interpretation of those intersection, and I can see why to my eyes they're exciting, but I'm curious from your perspective why you think they're exciting.
Yeah, well, obviously improved grades over, roughly 10 meters is really exciting for us. I think geologically, what I think is going on is basically, we're still hosted within the deformation zone that hosts Dorset. So as that shear zone moves out from the metavolcanics across the contact into the metaseds, I think the metasedimentary rocks are behaving more brittly. When you look at the quartz veins in these, intersections that have the better grade, they're really nicely defined, whereas in the rest of the Dorset zone, it's kind of more of a quartz flooded zone, more like siliceous alteration to some degree. So yeah, I think the metaseds are maybe just behaving more favorably for these quartz veins, and then they're really able to pool in there a little bit, more favorably, I guess is the best way to say it. And then, we're seeing this visible gold on a more consistent basis, which, like, for the team at site, it's great. Like, it's really motivating. It's very exciting. We're constantly like talking about it. And so it's just good for project morale too, I think.
Oh, that's great. And you can see on the map, I mean, it's very obvious on the map that you're between the Eagle River and Mishi mines, but I'm curious, are you seeing any similarities between the mineralization style that you have and those producing mines? And I'm curious, if so, how does that inform your exploration strategy?
Yeah, so through my conversations with West Dome and, sometimes, just like listening to their talks too, one of the ones I was on or I went to recently, they talk a lot about exploration potential on their land package as a whole, concentrating on the contacts again. So, for us, I think we're seeing some similarities in that regard. Like, hey, we're having a lot of success along contacts as well. Rock contact or lithological contacts, I should say. But yeah, in terms of like the host, both Mishi and Eagle River are hosted within quartz veins. Mishi, is in a deformation zone to the north. That deformation zone roughly follows a metasedimentary to metavolcanic contact as well. Quartz veining, and then the gold and sulfides associated with the quartz veining. Eagle River, you've got the diorite plug, quartz veins mainly through the diorite, again, all hosted within a deformation zone. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities in that regard. So, and then, we often look at, the ore chute geometry at Eagle River Mine as kind of an analog to how we're looking at the better grades at Dorset too, kind of seeming to be like, not constrained, but like potentially oriented in chutes as well. But what I like about Dorset is these chutes are potentially present. We think they could be present, but they're still within this, consistent envelope of this 2 kilometers of mineralization. And we have a great hit rate when we're drilling on the Dorset trend of hitting the zone. So it's really encouraging.
Oh, cool. I know when I was looking at releases with my team, the drill results show varying widths and grades, kind of from 2.1 meters to 13.7. I'm curious, what controls these variations? And from your eyes, what does that tell us about the deposit?
Yeah, so I think this kind of goes back again to looking at the ore chute geometry at Eagle River as a bit of an analog. So, when you look at their stuff, sometimes you can jump out of their high grade chutes like in 50 meters, 40 meters even. So I think it just depends where you kind of hit a chute. Even when you're on outcrop in the area, the quartz veins are very like pinch and swell, which is not uncommon in a shear zone. So, I think it just depends where we hit it with the drill hole. But again, just reminding people that even if we're hitting an edge of one of the chutes, we're still hitting gold. So it's that consistent, zone of 2 kilometers where we're able to hit that gold, in almost every hole. So that's important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, looking at your 15,000 meter planned drilling program for 2025, and I always like to ask a balancing question because I think it's interesting to get in the CEO's head for that. How do you plan to balance exploration between Dorset West, the Biff Zone, and Eagle River Splay? And as a kind of corollary question, at the end of this year, what does success look like to you? What's going to make you smile?
Yeah, for sure. So, it's funny. Every year we kind of go into our budget and our planning season in November, December, and we really want to drill the Biff more. It's a thick zone. You're looking at 30 to 50 meters true width in a lot of cases there, and it was our discovery, right? So you feel attached to that. But every year we drill Dorset first in the winter, and Dorset comes back with better than expected results. So this year we're like, okay, Dorset really needs the spotlight. So we're looking to drill roughly 10,000 meters at Dorset. We've allocated about 3,000 or so to Biff, and then I would say roughly 2 maybe to Eagle River. But I will say definitely those numbers are fluid based on the results that we see out of each of the kind of sessions or phases of drilling that we do this year.
Oh, great. That's a good answer. Thank you. One thing, with the significant extension of the mineralization trend, what milestones, looking at this year or the year after, would trigger moving towards a new resource estimate that you published?
Yeah, for sure. I think I forgot to mention too what were the what success would look like, but maybe that kind of goes with this question. For sure, if we can continue to hit moving out westward on Dorset, and we consistently are hitting grades like the ones we've been getting back, I could see, I will say, in general, we're moving towards a resource in 2026, but, adding some nice strike length on Dorset West as we kind of head into that would be for sure a success and would make me smile this year. At Biff, I think, having some success in defining the higher grade pockets, which I think would overall, improve the grade of any resource that came out of that would be a success for us. Also, obviously, finding a parallel zone there would make us smile because that would just be, that would be phenomenal. Eagle River Splay, what would make me smile down there is really pretty simple. Just hitting gold in between those first initial holes. I would be very happy with that, just to be able to talk about that success. Great.
Now, your most recent press release mentions being fully funded for 2025 exploration. I know investors usually like to see that. So I'm curious, just to get into the nitty gritty for it, could you share your current cash position and estimated burn rate for this year's program?
Yeah, so we're sitting on about $6.5 million to start the year. I think just shy of $1 million of that is hard dollar. And so, the remaining obviously being flow through, which needs to be spent by the end of this year. So, I think right now we're budgeting roughly $6 million for the year. Awesome. And most of that will go towards drilling.
Perfect. No, makes sense. And there was one question that came in over email. And I know this is always a really tough question to be asked, especially at the stage that Angus is at right now, but ask what your timeline to production is at the mine. So crystal ball, We're going deep into the future. That was a question that came in over email.
Oh God. I would like to complete our first maybe mineral resource estimate before I even wager a guess at that one. Sorry, maybe that's not the answer, but that's the best one I have.
No, I think it's accurate, which makes it a good answer. So jumping into questions from the chat, we got a couple of good ones that I'll run through. So TB from the chat asks a 2-part question. One you've already answered, but you feel free to reiterate if you'd like. He's curious, what kind of dollars per meter do you get drilling in Ontario these days? And then he also wants to know, what's the drill season for 2025? Which months are you drilling?
Yeah, so drilling overall, when we're using skid rigs, with the bulldozer, we're coming in $220-ish a meter. On the project, we've done a little bit of heli drilling that comes in closer to about $400 a meter. For the drill season, we try and do a lot in the winter, so between January and kind of end of March. And then we take a little bit of a break for the spring breakup, and then we're back drilling basically late May to mid-September. We take a small fall break for a couple weeks, and then we've over the last few years been drilling in the fall, kind of like mid-November into early to mid-December. So overall, pretty consistent through the year. Just a couple breaks for crews and everything. So
that's great. Wesley from the chat asks, in your view, what's the biggest catalyst that you think will move the stock this year?
I mean, yeah, if we can continue to add on Dorset West, I think that will be like a big catalyst for us. Like, if just growing strike and more consistently coming out with grades above 2 grams, I think there. With the fact that this is, like I said, exposed at surface to really, really only drilled off to 200 meters true depth, like adding strike at these grades is really exciting. And I hope that can be our catalyst. Yeah.
Cool. JG from the chat asks, and that's a tough question, so to the best of your ability, of course, asks who are the stakeholder groups in the region and if there are any foreseeable concerns there.
Like in terms of like First Nations communities. Yes, we have a number of First Nations communities that we're kind of constantly in discussions with. At this point, we have really good relationships with them. We've got we're always reaching out to them to figure out ways we can kind of like, I guess, use their businesses and their employees and stuff like that. So currently no large concerns, and relationships are definitely amicable.
Great. And I'll wrap up with one last question from me before we jump today, and that's, what are you most excited about in 2025? Like, what's keeping you up? What's keeping you jazzed?
Yeah, Dorset West for sure. Like, to be able to put out the grades last week and show that, hey, like, we're building something here, slow and steady. It's kind of our motto. But I think we're strategic about our exploration. We try and be smart with our dollars. And so, I think, trying to get out some consistent news flow on Dorset West and show that there's something exciting here. That's what I guess I'm jazzed about in 2025.
Awesome. And for those who want more information, please do go to angusgold.com. Great website to give you all the information you need. The core presentation's right there on the front page. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us, especially those who submitted questions. If you're like me and you think of the perfect question to ask moments after the event ends, feel free to still reach out. I'll make sure that the Angus team gets them as soon as possible. But Breanne, thanks so much for joining me today. Looking forward to having you on more often.
Yeah, thanks a lot for hosting, Angus. We really appreciate it.